Welcome to Lunch and Learn. I hope all of you have something to eat nearby, or your matcha to hold your appetite, or your unamate to hold your appetite. I am not somebody that normally does a lunch and learn, but I think I could get used to this because I usually eat and work at my desk anyway through the lunch hour. I'm glad that we've got this time together. Let me share with you how we're going to spend it. Some questions were posed to me about approaching medical practices. And for those of you that know me well, you know that that is my forte, and that 90% of my income has been derived from patients refilling or clients of people that are in allied healthcare professions, their clients refilling the different supplements that they were assigned to use for their health concerns, and that our ultimate goal is to build a long-term permanent residual income. And while I know that most people get started to work with us and build a business that's going to yield them a big income fast, with the coaching direction, that's not necessarily the way that it works. That doesn't mean there aren't other ways that we can build a bigger income fast that we're going to be alluding to. Not on this call, that's a different topic. But I want to say that the reason that I liked working with healthcare professionals was first because I believed so much in the unicity balance and how it affected my kids, that it bothered me that healthcare professionals weren't aware of it. They weren't recommending it. And I wanted to find a way to make that happen. And so I relentlessly sat down and I made a point of saying to myself that I was going to speak to as many physicians as I had to get somebody's attention. And I will tell you that even without the blessing of my husband endorsing my strategy, because he clearly told me, you're not to talk to anyone in my practice. Don't talk to anyone in the community. I don't want all the doctors at the hospital in the lunchroom saying, yeah, Bloom's wife is getting rich over working, in the community and trying to get into our practices. I mean, my husband wanted nothing to do with it. So I had to creatively work out of the area in different counties and speak to doctors that I didn't know. I mean, I literally was cold calling. And so when I made the decision to take this approach, I just had a basic script that was nothing more than a few lines, that once I got a physician on the phone, I said, after my small talk of getting through the office manager and scheduling a phone meeting, I just said to physicians, if you knew there was a non-pharmaceutical strategy that could help your patients that were either statin intolerant or diabetics that didn't or want to be on medications or couldn't be on medications for whatever reason, would you want to know about it? And every single physician said, no, not interested. Why? The reason was the same reason my husband said no, because they had no training in nutritional strategies to approach cardiovascular disease. They wouldn't even let me get to my fourth sentence. It was basically a hang up. The first few hurt. It got easier, and I just got used to hearing not interested. But because I'm a very relentless personality and I don't take no for an answer very easily, I continued to make those calls. And it was call after call after call. I even left the state. I went to different states where I had contacts and friends and family, because maybe if I found a physician that was in an area where I had friends or family, it could give me a reason to go visit the friends or family. And then it would give me an ability to go and meet that physician in person. So I was strategically working in my counties that were neighboring. I live in an area called Palm Beach County. I was contacting physicians in Broward County, Dade County, anywhere from 20 minutes away to 45 minutes away. And then I went out of state into areas where I had contacts. So it turns out that the first physician that finally said yes to me had been put on a statin drug for about a month, couldn't tolerate it. And when I said the question that I coined, Doctor, if you knew there was a non-pharmaceutical strategy for your patients that was able to help lower their cholesterol, increase their HDL, lower their LDL, normalize their glucose, would that be of interest to you? He finally, this one doctor said yes. And he said, I was actually put on a statin a month ago and I feel awful from it. Tell me more and then send it to me. So I sent it to him at my own expense. I was just so happy to finally get a yes that I was willing to pay for it. And so I sent him a box of Balance, and lo and behold, within the first month, he had an extraordinary result. Called me back and said, my numbers have dropped significantly. My partner would like to know about this. He's a borderline diabetic. Could we get a supply for him? So I'm thinking, all right, I don't want to tell him that it's going to cost him anything yet. I'll pay for this one too. So I sent a second box for his partner. And in 3 days, the partner's glucose came into normal range. So now we're 2 for 2. They call me back later that week after he saw the glucose drop. Says, one of the guys that we play golf with is an OBGYN, and he sees a lot of patients that have PCOS and women with gestational diabetes. He's also a diabetic. Could you send us a supply for him? Now, I want you to realize these guys never knew that there was any opportunity, that there was never any cost, because I'm just sending this stuff. They were thinking, oh, I'm some drug company and I'm giving samples. So I just didn't want to break my stride. So, yep, I sent the third box. So now I'm 3 boxes invested in sending to the doctors. But I didn't care because I figured if I have 3 for 3 and they have hundreds of patients, this is going to be worth my investment. I was going to spend whatever it took to get the attention of a physician. I didn't even blink my eyes. And so the third physician uses the Balance. Again, another positive response. So 3 doctors, 3 guys that are friends, they network and talk with each other. And now they all want to know, how do we get this for our patients? And that's when I dropped the bomb about how it works, setting up an account and how their patients can access this product and the payment. And I explained to them how I funded their product. And I was honest with them. I said, I paid for your product out of my own pocket because I wanted you to have an experience and I didn't want you to not be willing to pay for this. So I leveled with all the guys. And from those 3 guys came a tremendous flow of patients being recommended to the Balance. And from those 3 guys, they had contacts in New Orleans, they had contacts in Texas. They had just, people are windows and doors to other people. And that was when it all began for me realizing I want to work in the medical community. I mean, do I want to sit and, spend all my time talking to people when I don't have a health coaching background? I don't have a nutritional background. I just had a belief in the product. I knew that it worked. And so for me, it was going to be about developing the business strategy to expand this healthcare professionals network. And so what I would do is I would train the nurses. I would create a program to train the nurses and let them learn everything in their offices. So that was my game plan back then that I've pretty much run with all my years working with the company. And so it's been like that where I have offices around the country, even around the world, where there's staff involved in educating the patients, making sure that they get their supplement, getting their refills done. I mean, there's, a whole system that they've followed for doing that. 9 years ago, when the health coaching came into play with Get Fit 21, it was a whole different ball game because now I needed to teach health coaches how to build their own clientele. And that's why health coaches become health coaches. They want to build a clientele. And they're not necessarily thinking when they're going to health coaching school, I want to make a big income being a health coach. They come into health coaching school because I want to help people. I just, want to build a nice income that I can quit my job and this is my sole income. I've yet to meet a health coach that ever said to me, I got into health coaching to be a millionaire. But what's really cool about what we do is that health coaches can become millionaires working with us. There is that possibility. and it could be done in various ways. It doesn't mean that that has to be the road and path for all of you. It just means that there are different strategies that you can include in your strategy. And it could be, you might just want to be limited to building your own clientele, and that's fine. You can make great income building a large clientele if you're the kind of person that is relentless and goes after it and doesn't stop and prospects everywhere, left, right, center, north, south, east, west, online, offline, creates events, goes to meetings, goes to networking group. I mean, you can do a huge clientele if that's who you are and you're willing to do all of that. And there's a lot of people that do. There are coaches that I work with that you don't even know. They don't do Get Fit 21. They have built giant clienteles with our products and their own systems. They wanted to do their own thing. And these are independent women who are just building their own businesses, their own coaching businesses, their way, not this way. And they do their own group. Example, I have a coach that works out of San Diego. She built her entire Get Fit program on a WhatsApp group. She has a dozen women in at a time. She has the PDF from our Get Fit 21 group that she literally every morning reads verbatim into a recorded message in her WhatsApp group. And then throughout the day, all the women are texting and posting their pictures, and they're doing all the activities that you're familiar with in Get Fit 21, but they're doing it through a text group. That is her thing, her style, and she's got them all on products, and then she's building a tremendous volume of product sales and making a nice income. So I wanted to let you know that you can build this way with Get Fit 21 in a group, this way with Get Fit 21, and with your own strategy. And you can build by accelerating the growth of your business with physicians, because one physician has hundreds of patients. And you can expand your income by growing with fitness centers, because one fitness center has hundreds of members. And so if you think the phrase volume environments will bring you more revenue sooner than one here, one there, one here, one there. So I feel that for those of you that creating more significant income sooner, having the volume environment as part of your business strategy is really important. And also, I think that, doing business strategy, not just health coaching, but business strategy is also really important. And what I mean by that is building a team of other coaches that are looking to build a clientele. You all became affiliated in the healthcare industry because you want to help people. You want to help them with their health. But, a lot of people's health challenges stem from stress in their lives. Your colleagues, other health coaches, nurses, people trying to make ends meet. There's nothing wrong with you becoming healthcare business professionals, and each of you building a business where you're able to help other health coaches with their financial health. And that's another element of our business that I really enjoy, and I really want to teach you because it's fun. And then your business is not just dependent on your own clientele, but it's going to expand that much faster when you are working with other people that want to coach and build a business, and you're able to leverage yourself. Your ultimate goal here, end goal, is going to be to have the long-term permanent recurring residual income that, 3 years, 5 years from now, your income isn't dependent on just you. I know Juanita Hales is sitting on the beach right now while she's sitting in this training. She's working her mobile business, and here she is. She has to prove it. There she is in her bathing suit, attending a training. And the ultimate goal here is for you to live a life like that, to look forward to that, to not reporting to a boss. And so it takes time to get there, and you have to be patient. And the only people that don't ever make it to experience that are those that quit before it can happen. But there's so much legwork that's required to get to that point. This business is simple, but it's not easy. I'll be the first to tell you. How easy do you think it was for me to hear one doctor after another? Nope, not interested. Nope, not interested. Nope. It was hard. I didn't care. Things couldn't get any worse for me. They already weren't working with me. They weren't sending patients. Nobody knew about the products through them. So just keep going. And so that's where my my stamina came from, and that's what I teach to my team. And then I look to see on the team who's going to rise up and be like me. And so what I want to do is I want to address some questions now that I kind of laid that foundation for you. And I was given a few questions from Rakisha that you asked about approaching medical practices. What do I leave? What do I say? How do I approach it? And so it's very simple. You need to do what I did. I wouldn't recommend just stopping in offices randomly whenever you get a chance. That's not a prepared mindset, intentionally doing what you're setting out to do. Driving to go somewhere where you're maybe going to the grocery store and saying, you know what, I'm going to go to the grocery store and then I'm going to stop by Dr. Stein's office because I'll be passing by there. And that walking in and just like leaving material, your mindset's not in the business mindset. You're just like, you're doing it on the fly. This is a serious business. It can yield you serious net worth, and you need to prepare and do it properly. So I think that sitting down and pounding the phones is the best way. You can send emails. I think that's the least best way, because it's too easy to ignore an email, and you think you're sending out these mass emails, and you're being productive. You're not. People can feel a mass email. Somebody recently shared with me that they sent an email out to 50 different previous contacts that they had. And so I said, was it personalized? Did you say their name, dear Nancy? Did you, make it personal, each of those 50? No, I just did a, big group email. And my response was, well, don't you think they sensed that it was a group email? Don't you think that they maybe you'd have a better chance responding if you made it personalized, dear Nancy, maybe one line of something personal? And the response was, I have time to do 50 emails. I said, who says you have to do it in one day? Why can't you do 5 over a 10-day period? Do 10 over a 5-day period. I mean, budget your time intentionally to do things right. So what I want to say is, making cold calls on the phone to a medical practice is, I think, the best way to go for those of you that want to approach the healthcare practices or wellness spas or med spas or esthetician spas or all these places that are popping up that are in the healthcare realm that have a physical office space with clients and patients. And it's kind of like you're doing a little detective work here. But before I get into that, I want to say that when you are sitting down to do that call, you need to be in your head. You need to be prepared. You don't look right. You don't look left. You close the door. The dog's been fed. Sign on your front door, don't ring the doorbell. So when the Prime Amazon guy comes, he don't ring your doorbell and cause a distraction. I mean, you are in a zone and you are doing nothing but making those calls. And you decide, well, I've got 15 minutes today, or I've got 1 hour today. I don't care how much time you can allocate that day. Your head is in such a zone that you're going to say, okay, I've got 15 minutes, and in 15 minutes, I'm going to just plow through these calls, and I'm not stopping until my 15-minute timer goes off. That is an IPA, an income producing activity. Your time spent in growing your business, whether it's in the medical field or any direction you choose to go, 80% of it must be spent prospecting. 20% of it is spent in other areas. 10% might be in doing research, learning the industry, studying supplements, things like that. 10% is in follow-up and working with people that you have in the funnel. But when you are in that zone, whether it's 15, 20 minutes or whatever time it is, you are committed to nonstop calls. And so you pick an area that you want to work. You pick a specialty that you want to work. Maybe it's OBGYNs. Maybe it's, orthopedic surgeons. I mean, whatever it is, that's the area that you pick, and you stay in it. And so do your research online. Look for doctors, Google cardiologists in Maryville, Tennessee. Pick areas, and all the doctors that are in that town will come up. Select the different areas that you want and just make the calls. And when you make that call, you're not going to get through to the doctor. You're going to get someone answering the phone who's the gatekeeper. And so what you want to do is you want to kind of put on a little bit of a show. This is business. This is marketing. This is sales. I don't care what you all think about. I don't like sales. Guess what? You're in sales. You're selling your services. You're selling yourself. But once you have somebody in your world, you're serving them. And so semantics, call it what you want. Serving people, doing whatever you have to help somebody, whether it's called sales, service, you are selling yourself. And so you need to get over a little bit of a hump of being not yourself for a moment. And you want to come from the place that I'm new to the area. I am looking to establish myself as a patient. And I just wondered, what does Dr. Jones have in his practice if I was interested in a weight loss program? Because that's of interest to me, and I just kind of want to get a feeling for what he has and wait and listen what they say. And then if they say, well, we really don't have anything, say, oh, okay. Well, I have more question because I'm also a diabetic and, I'm borderline with my cholesterol. Does the doctor do anything in the office for, offering something that's non-pharmaceutical, maybe supplements or anything? Like, what does he do? Because I can't really tolerate meds so well. So I just wonder, does he have any other options for patients? Does he do any kind of lifestyle or, supplement offering? The point of you doing this is because you're trying to learn what does he have currently in his practice so you can see what hole you need to fill. What do we have? What gap can we fill that he doesn't have? And whether he has something or not, it should be of interest to you, because if he has something, well, that tells us, ooh, he's a potential prospect. And if he has nothing, that tells us, ooh, he's a potential prospect. So you're trying to do some detective work here. You're looking for clues. So you have that phone call, and then what you're going to do is you're going to let some days go by, enough days that they kind of forget you. And you're filling that time in those days with more cold calls to healthcare places, physician practices, or other healthcare places we discussed. And when several days go by, at least 5 to 7 days, because remember, don't be in a rush. This is a process. When you call back, you want to call back now, you're a different person. And I want you to know, this sounds like, kind of like a screenplay, which is fun, but it works because I've taught people to do this. And when they do it, it works. And so I never teach anything that I haven't proven. So when you call back days later and they don't know who you are, now you're calling back with a different hat on. You're calling back and it's, hi, my name is Jan Bloom. I just wondered, who should I speak to about setting up a meeting with a physician and what days he might see reps? And so this is if you're working locally. So and I always encourage you to work locally as much as possible, because there's nothing better than you going to see them in person. So, I went long distance out of desperation. You guys, please start locally, because I'd like to see you be able to get face-to-face with the doc. And most of the physicians will see reps. Some of them might have you see the office manager. Ever since COVID took place, some offices just won't see reps at all. It's just a numbers game, and you're going to have to make call after call to find the doctor that's willing to see reps. And when she says, well, he'll see reps Thursday, usually between 12 and 2. So you've got to work your schedule to figure out how you're going to get there Tuesday between 12 and 2. And the other option is, if you can't get there between 12 and 2 physically, then you can follow that same strategy and do it on a Zoom. So if you said, well, since Thursdays, I'm not able to be there when Dr. Jones sees reps, if I sent a Zoom link, would he be willing to meet me online so I can review with him some interesting information for the patients? So you can offer to meet in person, or you can offer to meet on a Zoom. And so when you have that meeting with the physician, you're going to basically go over a snapshot of who we are and what we do. And at that point, your goal is to spend 5 minutes with him, 10 max. When you're with them, your whole appointment time should be spent creating curiosity, having your pitch down as to who you are, what you say. And I will share a pitch with you, not here in this moment, but something that's basically typed out for you so you can modify it to sound like yourself. But you'll basically share your pitch, and then you're going to just share some basic information with them, whether you're in person with him or you're not. And so what I want to show you is what you'd be showing them. And let me share my screen. And what I want you to see is a physician's information package. And this is a package that we've created as a booklet. We've created it as a PDF for you to print out and leave with the practitioner, or you can just show it to him online if you're in a Zoom. And this is the initial opening after you've given your 1, 2, 3 pitch, and say, let me just leave you with some information, and then you can review it, and let's schedule a follow-up time, because I know you're going to have a lot of questions, and I'll probably include one of my colleagues to join us on that follow-up. And so here's the opening: a prescription to supplement the health of your patients and your practice. And it's a prescription that shows here's the balance for the practice. And I'm leading with balance because I've built 99% of my income with balance. It's the most highly reordered supplement in the company. There's been $4 billion worth of balance sold in 50 countries, and you do not sell $4 billion with a B dollars worth of a supplement. If it didn't work, people wouldn't be refilling it and reordering it. So the balance is my lead with physicians. And when I would be working with the clients, when you're going to eventually get their referrals, that's when you can begin to introduce other things to the patients and clients who might be more open-minded. I wouldn't necessarily be going into a physician practice talking about the Feel Great system, as phenomenal as it is, because we have to speak the doctor's language. We have to speak in the phraseology of metabolic health, cardiovascular disease, HDL, cardiovascular risk factors. We can't be talking, I'm going to show you how to help your patients feel great. That's a different audience. That's a different strategy for building our business that we're going to be talking about on another call. However, we're going to lead with balance because we're in specific medical environments. So you can see here, it shows the benefits of balance for your practice, increases practice revenue, a remote health coach provided, effective lifestyle program, personalized attention, monthly patient reports, patient customer service provided, online account management, no bookkeeping or inventory enlisted in the PDR. And for your patients, it's a multi-fiber-based natural medical nutrition, facilitates weight loss, balances blood sugar, lowers A1C, decreases insulin resistance, lowers LDL, HDL, improves gut health, energy, no stimulants, gluten-free. That's it. Practice, patients, that's the opening. So look at that. And then we go to the endorsement of balance. This bullet point outline that shows everything and clearly says, originated at Stanford School of Medicine, primary studies conducted at Cleveland Clinic, University of Utah, Emory University, University of Sydney, Australia, published in major peer-reviewed medical journals, and the physician's desk reference. Credibility every step of the way. We then show the comparison of balance and prescription drugs. These doctors know all the indications, contraindications, precautions, and interactions of the drugs. Now you're showing them balance. So you're staying focused in one lane to get their attention. Doctors have no attention span, let alone half of our society. You got to get to the point quick, and balance is it to get into that medical practice. So now we go into the 7 mechanisms of balance. And under each mechanism, we've got a medical comment just to endorse what that one of those 7 mechanisms. There's 2 pages worth of that. And every page we're reminding them that it's in the physician's desk reference, just subconsciously planting that seed. And then we show how there was a 90-day test study done on the Get Fit program. This is kind of leading into that. And so we're showing how the ongoing failure of conventional pharmacology, blah, blah, blah. They explain that. And then it says, this study was to determine the efficacy of a 90-day supplementation and coaching program on improving numerous aspects of cardiometabolic health. So including this study is going to bring value and credibility to what you're speaking to them about. And then we talk about the Get Fit 21 metabolic health program. We're not talking about the Get Fit 21 challenge. We're not talking about the Get Fit 21 system. We're talking about the Get Fit 21 metabolic health program. Why? Because that's the language of the healthcare provider. So we want to stay true to the language. It's like when you go to another country, you have to learn the language. You got to speak to the people their language so they relate to you and identify with you. When you speak to a medical professional, a physician of any specialty, you got to speak their language. So learning the terminology and when to use certain things is really super important that you become proficient at. And we include the health and wellness profile to show them that this is something that we'll be reviewing with their clients or their patients. And then we review an example of a flyer, and we have multiple flyers that we can put throughout their office. You know, doctors will frequently have on the waiting room tables frames with things from drug companies. They'll have things on the countertop in the exam room. Well, I have an exploding amount of medical PDFs that we can use to put throughout a medical practice so we can provide the marketing material inside the practice. So this is just one example that I've put up here. They have her eyes, her smile, perhaps her diabetes. And family practitioners are dealing with families, kids. I wanted to throw it in there. The balance is safe for kids. Complete is safe for kids. And I wanted to plant that seed because maybe there's going to be a mom who is a diabetic or overweight, and she has an overweight child, and she'll think of her child for this as well. So this was a strategic recommendation for this particular PDF flyer. So these are the things that you would leave for the practice that would give them enough information to want to meet you again. And so what I want to share with you is there's no reason for you to reinvent the wheel and start creating your new tools and things like that and embellishing it and say, well, I want to add this flyer and I want to add that flyer. Keep it short, keep it tight, focus on one thing. Because if you start thinking, well, I think they should see this too, because I have a lot of coaches that do stuff like that. And I'm nobody's boss. I'm just giving you my best advice. And that is, the trimmer you keep the content, the better. Over content, you're going to lose their attention. So this is what I would leave with a medical practice. Or if I was on a Zoom with somebody, just like I'm taking you through the Zoom, I would have the document available to walk the doctor through. If you're leaving this, in person for an office manager, you can also ask on calls when you're calling a practice, is there somebody at the practice that's a program coordinator for the patients? Because sometimes you need to get to the program coordinator, write that down, program coordinator, to get to them before you get to the physician, because they're going to screen the programs to see if the doctor's even going to be interested. So there's layers that you've got to go through. You got the front office girl, and then there's the office manager. But sometimes the front office girl will maybe just say to you, yeah, Thursdays between 12 and 2. But she might say, well, it varies. And then, or he doesn't see reps. That's when you would chime in and say, is there a patient program coordinator that I can speak with, or an office manager? Because that person will be more knowledgeable. And even if you have to do this presentation to the office manager or the program coordinator, whatever it takes to ultimately get to the doctor for him to recommend clients and patients to you. So this is the method streamlined for you to approach healthcare practice settings. I wanted to just for a moment show you something that I'd like to see start happening. And this is a presentation that I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'm going to spew through it quickly to lean more into the healthcare professionals, where we're doing a presentation, and this could be for patients, clients, healthcare professionals, coaches. They are all good prospects, I believe, for this presentation that we've created. So this is an educational webinar that we would do. And we're talking about cardiovascular disease and how it's the #1 killer. And I'm not going to be reading all these slides to you. I'm just giving you the gist of every slide. How many people die each year from cardiovascular disease, showing the stats worldwide, talking about how for some people their first symptom is instant death, high cholesterol being a major culprit, the plaque buildup in the artery wall, showing how from the first decade in life to the third decade in life to the fourth decade in life, and then risk factors, prevalence of cardiovascular disease, the education progress. Here we're talking about women recognizing cardiovascular disease, and then mortality rates in women, cholesterol, teaching people about good versus bad. This is about LDL, HDL. This is an educational program that we can do for your clients or for patients or for anyone. Why people's cholesterol remains high, fat storage, childhood obesity. So you see, we get into all of these topics. Here we're showing the morning commute the way it used to be and the way it is now. Talking about why obesity is harmful. Here we're showing, this is literally, I took this picture when I was in Los Angeles. It cracked me up when I saw there were steps to go up to the fitness center, but the people were on the escalator. I had to take that picture. I saved that for a long time. Talking about exercise, diabetes. These are all, excellent. And this is excellent information for us to be able to be doing presentations to get to the clients and patients to educate them further, and talking about fiber, and then asking the group, what do you think 22, 14, 35, and 7 means? That's what you need to have the proper amount of fiber in your diet a day. And so we're leading into talking about the balance. But the whole point here is we want to get people really knowledgeable about fiber and what we do and dangers of the drugs, showing them what an ad looks like for Crestor and looking at the other side effects, the other page, which has the side effects. Then we introduce the balance and we talk about the benefits and how does it work and the data on balance and fat burning and so on and so forth. And so this goes on and on. It's an extraordinary presentation that we could be doing to gain tremendous, content. We can leave this in or leave it out. We can talk about matcha and stress and energy, and we could leave that in, we could take it out, but we do, showing them the differences on the nutritional content of matcha versus green tea and black tea. If you look at, the different types of teas, matcha has 3.9 grams of fiber, while green tea and black tea have none. Just looking at different benefits. Telling them that Damu Cherry, who's a USA Olympian, is a spokesperson for our matcha. This is something that I'd like to see us lean into more and more. high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, high anxiety. Getting high is no fun at my age. I love this. So we have an opportunity here to really, I love this, make a difference. Superior doctors prevent the disease. Mediocre doctors treat the disease before evident. Inferior doctors treat the full-blown disease, meaning that doctor never took the time to talk prevention or lifestyle. So I wanted to say that this is something that, you know, I've been working on to assemble for us to have health oriented presentations that you can invite people onto to learn about our products and get them interested in the balance. And then we can integrate interesting other add-ons like the Unimate. Cognitive health, cardiovascular health, they kind of go together. And then we may introduce them to the Feel Great system then. There's a lot of ways we can go, but I was asked to talk about speaking to physicians. And I think that the medical community personally will really only be ready right now to be led with balance. And then once we've won them over, they trust us and have confidence in what we're teaching, what we're saying, and what we're doing, then they'll be open to more strategies like combining the Unimate with the balance and making the Feel Great system available for their clients or patients. So I'm going to ask any of you that want to ask a question. I'm going to leave the balance of this call. I'm going to turn over to Rakisha and let her take over from here. And I'll be here for whatever questions might arise. Rakisha?
Thank you so much, Jan. That was such outstanding information that you shared with all of us. And so if anyone does have questions, you can put those in the chat. I can field those so that we can present to Jan. I know that one of the questions that I do have, that when we are making cold calls, that there may be some that are not practiced in cold calling. What would be some of your best tips to warm up prior to making those calls to physicians' offices?
To actually getting on the phone with the receptionist?
Correct.
The warm
As
up.
far as practicing and getting comfortable with making that call prior to actually making the cold call.
I always believed in role playing. I mean, you know, when I'm working with a new coach that I'm mentoring personally, I love role playing, where I love to be the receptionist and have a coach or business partner work with me and try to get my attention. I will throw every objection their way. I'll be nice on one approach. I'll throw them another objection to see how they handle it. And then when they get frazzled with how I responded, I tell them how to respond. So that comes in the one-on-one mentoring, but role playing is very important. You should not just sit down and say, I'm going to make my calls and plow into it. You need to have a strategy session with one of the people that is part of the team. That's your warm up. When you sit down after that role play and you're like, okay, it's Wednesday, I had my role play session with Keisha or Jan or Judy. You had that one on Monday and now it's Thursday and you're cold. Oh my God, what did she say? You just sit down and you do it. You just do it. And the more you do it, it will come back to you what the role play was about. Because between your role play time and when you actually sit down to do it, you will have made notes. I used to actually have index cards. I don't know anybody, I haven't seen an index card in 20 years, I think. Does anybody here remember 3x5 cards?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen the 3x5 cards since then, but I used to have 3x5 cards and I'd have exactly what I wanted written on that in front of me, propped up. So, I mean, I had it planned of what I was going to say until it rolled off my tongue. And when I say roll off your tongue, it's just like your elevator pitch when someone says, what do? You have to be able to say, I am a health coach. I work with health practice advisors. We're a group of healthcare and fitness professionals that collaborate and facilitate programs online and offline that focus on diabetes, cholesterol, and weight loss management. I mean, that's called rolling off your tongue.
Yeah.
So you need to get good at this where it rolls off your tongue that I don't need this card anymore. I got it. But that's going to come from practicing and screwing up your first 30 calls. If I had to screw up I had to get 100 no's or more. If I had to go through that, so do you.
Thank you for that. We do have another question from Chenelo. She says, thanks for that presentation. Are you able to share the doctor's information presentation and the HPA disease PowerPoint?
Of course, I created it for all of you. When I create tools, it's to help you succeed in your business so you don't have to waste your time creating it. I have 29 years of content in my head. I am all too happy to provide this to you. And so I don't want you guys wasting your time trying to put it together. Of course, I am going to send it to you.
Thank you.
Yes, you can edit the PPT for whoever it is. You can take the front cover of it and say cardiovascular presentation for Dr. John Smith. You can put your own logo on it. You can just make sure that Health Practice Advisors is part of every part of it, because that's the credibility that you're going to use over and above your own credibility. And I know, Chinello, I know you're a registered pharmacist and you have your credibility in the medical community. Not to dilute that. However, Health Practice Advisors is who we are and what we work with. And that would be the only thing I would say not to remove from any of the slides. Any other questions? Now I'm going to mention something that I wanted to say is very important in your non-doctor approach. I have created, and maybe you've all seen it, but you know, I've created a let me share my screen for a second. A letter that is really important for all of you to share with your physicians. That it's not in my folder, of course, but I'll send it to the group. This is a letter that every single person that is either on Balance, Get the 21, the Feel Great System, Cleanse, whatever, with every client you have, the first thing you must do is get the name of their physician. Who is their OBGYN? Who is their family doctor? Who is what physicians do they see? Because when you're getting to know a client, don't just put them on the products and put them in the program. When you're doing that wellness profile, make sure you get a list of the doctors that they see. Every one of their doctors should be getting a letter from you. And I've already written the letter, so you don't have to wonder what letter I'll be sending that. Should be getting the letter that says, dear, in essence, dear doctor. It's not going to be filling in the blank. You're going to literally take the time and personalize it. And it's going to be, dear Dr. Smith, we have a patient in common, Mrs. Jones. You've been treating her for high cholesterol, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to let you know for your records that I am helping her with her lifestyle changes. And I will be sending you a report at the end of the month on how she's doing. I thought that what I'm doing with her from a nutrition standpoint and lifestyle change would be important for you to be aware of. I also included some information for you to review in case you have any other patients that I can be helpful with. And in that letter, you're going to include a brochure on Get the 21, or you're going to include a brochure on Balance. And I would probably say, you know, depending on the practice, like I say, I like to keep it limited to Balance, but you know, the Get Fit 21 brochure could be good for you to have because it's got the Balance in there as well. So you may want to put that in with the letter, your business card, and that will be your cover letter. That's what you're going to put in the letter that you're going to mail to the physician of every single one of your clients. So I want you to go back to every single person that you've ever coached, whether they're active with you or not, and find find this is a good excuse for you to call the people that aren't active and say, you know, I wondered if you could please give me the name of your physician, because we're letting all the physicians know that we're in our program, of their patients that were in our program, about the program. So if they had any other patients that they could help, if you can give me the name of your doctor. Some will give you the name, no problem. Maybe somebody might not. I can't imagine why they wouldn't. But that's for you to go back to old clients. If you've new clients, make it your practice. Every new client, you get their doctor's names. Any specialists that they see, their primary care, have them and every one of their doctors get that letter. That's visibility for you indirectly. And don't put one card, put a few cards. Because if you put a few cards, they've got one for themselves. And then somebody just might come in that day and the doctor might say, you know what? Let me give you a card of somebody that one of my other patients was seeing and got great results. So put a few cards in for him to give to a patient. Okay, so I just thought of that and I'm glad I remembered to mention it. Anything else?
Jan, there's a couple of questions too. Chinelo asks, can you outline what will or should be in a brochure?
The brochure is already created, and the brochure tells a little bit about Get Fit 21, and then it has a brief explanation on each of the products. So it's already created. And then what I do for the coaches that have done branding with me, we create their logo and branding on that brochure for them.
The next question is from Jamie about HSS, HSA, and FSA coverage of balance. Should we be leaning on that in our presentation to the physician? I understand the patient is responsible for confirming that their insurance will cover it, but are physicians willing to prescribe it if we, or should we, suggest it?
Well, the HSA reimbursement is more of an interest to the patient. And so I don't know that it's necessary to bring that up in your physician's presentation, because he only cares about one thing, getting paid. He doesn't need to know how he's getting paid. But over the years, like I work with somebody who's out of Minnesota, and she works for the Hormel company. That's the company that makes delicious Spam. Anybody remember Spam? Well, she has worked with us over these years, and anyone at Hormel that uses our products pays for it through their HSA account. And over the years, I've seen other people that have HSA health savings accounts that will pay for it. Also, when a doctor writes medically necessary, that also helps a lot of clients and patients get paid. So let the patient be the one that says to the doctor, hey doc, can you write me a prescription for the balance and on it write medically necessary? Because then I can submit it and get reimbursed. So I hope that helps, Jamie. Okay. Any other questions?
No other questions in the chat.
All right. So should I conclude and say?
Sorry, John. Thank you. So sorry, I was trying to type my question, but maybe it's not the easy question. Thank you, John, for the presentation. It's very useful. I find for someone like me in Canada or in a different country from US, is there any particular things I should be aware of when I am approaching the healthcare sector, especially that in Canada we have a public health coverage?
It's a good question, Khaled, because in Canada, there are specific regulations that don't allow physicians to prescribe nutritional supplements or sell nutritional supplements in their offices. And I learned that because I work with a nurse practitioner out of Canada. Her husband is a cardiologist, and he wanted to recommend balance to everybody. But because of the government regulations, he had to create a funnel where the product could be recommended indirectly through him. And so he used his wife, Karen, as the funnel to recommend it because she has a background in nutrition and a master's in, other healthcare things. And so he would tell her to make the recommendation. So he wasn't necessarily actively, visibly on the line involved in saying, Mrs. Jones, I'd like you to go on this balance for your cholesterol as an option to your statin drug. I'll see you back here in a month. We'll check your lipids. It's not acceptable by law and regulation for the medical doctor, but they can refer to a health coach. They can refer to a dietitian. They can refer to a nurse to be the interim that will then make that recommendation. So, I like to say that physicians, we want them to work with us just because they want what's very much the best health for their patients. And they do. Yet there are physicians that are enterprising and they want to be able to offset their overhead and create additional revenue streams. They may never tell you that, but they do. I know that. I'm married to a doctor. I've always heard his practice partners whining and complaining about the overhead. Overhead is getting higher. Reimbursements are getting lower. So doctors always want to make more money. And especially in Canada, they're on, their incomes are paid, whether they work a lot or they work a little, they just get one pay. So they want to help their patients. They'll refer them to an interim person that might be a health coach like yourself or whoever it is that's working with you and doing the health coaching. And that doctor may not see any compensation from that, or that doctor might do what the cardiologist that I mentioned before did. He set an account up for his wife, and his wife became the account holder, and all product was ordered through her account, her name, and he was completely separate from it. But that income went to obviously the same household. So there's always ways around things. When there's a will, there's a way. Did that help?
Thank you, John. So, do you think should we work with other healthcare practitioners like physiotherapist or a dietitian or a nutrition?
I would definitely approach them because they need money too. I would be approaching dietitians. They only make money by writing meal plans for people. Most dietitians are not recommending supplements except sending them to a store to go buy supplements. Your responsibility is to say to that dietitian, I have great respect for the meal plans that you're writing and your knowledge of food and nutrition. However, a lot of patients need supplementation to fill the gaps. And why would you want to send them to the store to buy irresponsible nutrition that is going to be money spent anyway that could be spent under your roof? And then you have control of their nutrition and the supplements they're using. And you have the ability to create some additional revenue to be in your practice. So you have to be ready to justify why they'd want to have supplements in their practice.
Interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Should we call it a wrap, Rakisha?
I think so, Jan.
Exactly. It's 1 hour because we started at 12:17 and it's now 1:17 Eastern time.
Thank you so much, Jan.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
From on the beach to wherever you are, have the best week. I will facilitate getting all of that information I showed you today to all of you. And a couple other things that I didn't show you, you will have that in your possession. And then remember, if this is a walk, you need to get scheduled with us to do some role play strategy meetings. They don't need to be more than 15 minutes. You don't start getting off on other tangents. The call with the mentor is a 15-minute role play session, period. Okay, so Rakisha, thank you for hosting the Lunch and Learn, and I'll look forward to the Lunch and Learn that we have next month, which is the first Thursday of every month.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Jan.
Thank you so much, Jan. Really appreciate it. Wonderful presentation.
For your time, everybody, for being here today.
Powerful. Let's make that money, y'all.
Right.
Yeah, Coach Juanita.
Sitting on the beach.